It is so obvious that the New York Football Giants are in love with Shedeur Sanders. The East-West Shrine Bowl is going on this weekend, and Shedeur is there. And Joe Schoen, Brian Daboll, and Brandon Brown are following him around like a sick puppy. We're going to break that down, and we'll give you a full scouting evaluation of Sanders. But speaking of the polarizing prospect, do you want him as the future quarterback of the New York Football Giants? If you do, hit that thumbs up icon right now. Welcome into New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. Happy Saturday and happy weekend to all of the real ones out there. You know what? Had to come into the studio today. Shout out to producer C. Breezy so we could get you guys a video on everything that's going on right now about the Giants and Shedeur Sanders because they look to be spending a lot of time together at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Jordan Nahn of ESPN, Giants Insider, tweeting this out this morning. The Giants, and specifically Coach Brian Daboll, spent significant time yesterday morning meeting with Shedeur Sanders. The Colorado QB is participating in the East-West Shrine Bowl this week. First practice is later this morning. Sanders could be an option at number 3 in the NFL draft. Do want to let everybody know that he is not going to play in that game, but he is there for all of the team availability where he can meet with all of the teams across the NFL. And he's spending a lot of time with the New York Giants. A picture and a video went viral on Giants Twitter. And here you see Shedeur Sanders with the Giants front office. Looks like in the hotel lobby. Brian Daboll, Joe Schoen, Brandon Brown, and Dennis Hickey were all there. And they were chopping it up for a good, what seemed like handful of minutes, getting to know each other. Joe Schoen was laughing, and Shedeur looked really cool and comfortable speaking to these guys. Then later on in the day, this picture became available on social media, and Shedeur Sanders and Brian Daboll on the practice field at my alma mater, University of North Texas. Let's ride on the football field there, chopping it up, talking a little bit. I'm sure they were not talking about at all the New York Giants selecting Shedeur Sanders, right? No way they're talking about that. Then the DAP heard around the world. Brian Daboll, as you see in the bottom right-hand corner, gives a little sup to Shedeur Sanders. Walked by, they saw each other, made eye contact. And when I say it was the crispiest dap up you've ever heard, it just seemed like that was not the first time they had done it. Almost seemed like they had been practicing it. And you know, when you got a crispy dap up, it's a good relationship starting to form. And it really seems like Daboll and Sanders are really comfortable around each other. And how could the Giants not be comfortable around Shedeur Sanders? They have been following him around all college football season long. They were even following him around all college football year in 2023. Here is the New York Giants back in November. Joe Schoen, Brandon Brown, and Jesse Armstead. Giants legends, speaking of prime, at the Colorado football facility in Boulder, Colorado. And they were there for a practice. And it wasn't just the only practice they had been to. They actually went to 2 Colorado football practices this year. And there were rumors that they went to a practice in the spring of 2024. Joe Schoen has been to not 1, not 2, but 3 Colorado football games this year. He went to the season opener against North Dakota State. He went to the Utah game, and then he did a double whammy where he went to see Cam Ward in his final college football game in the bowl game where he sat out the second half, and he went to the final game for Colorado this year where Colorado lost to BYU. The Giants front office also, though, went to the game this year, Colorado versus UCF. So Schoen goes to 30 games. The Giants have been to 4. The Giants and Joe Schoen, to my knowledge, have been to 2 Colorado football practices this year, and also they supposedly went in the spring. So yeah, they clearly are doing a lot of work on him, and I would say that they like him as a prospect. Connor Hughes of SNY recently did a mailbag Giants Insider, and he was asked the question, who do you think the Giants have as QB1? And he said the talk around league circles has been Sanders. It's been that way since before the season ended. The Giants actually had a completed report on Sanders ready if he declared for the 2024 NFL draft. He would have been a target in the 2nd or 3rd round for Big Blue. So there you have that. The Giants did a lot of work on him last year. And Jordan Nahn recently on his podcast said there was a belief during the season that the New York Giants were high on Sanders. And absolutely they were. And it seems like all of these things are starting to connect. to kind of paint the picture that the Giants have Sanders as their QB1, and Sanders knows it. Remember back before the bowl game for Colorado, Shedeur said, "You're going to know what team I'm going to based on the cleats that I wear." And as you see, Shedeur's locker, and he's got some New York Giants-themed cleats. But then the Giants went on to get that big culture win against the Indianapolis Colts in Week 17, and they lost the number 1 overall pick. But even before that, the dots were starting to be connected. You go back to the Heisman Trophy ceremony back at the end of the year in New York City, and Malik Neighbors and Shedeur Sanders, they linked up, and they chopped it up, and they were kicking it. And they walked out in front of the bodega in the New York City streets, and they started chucking the pill, and they played catch. And I can't say I've ever seen a wide receiver of a team that needs a quarterback hop out in the street of the city that they play in and toss the pigskin. But you know what? Probably nothing of that. And probably nothing to make of Shedeur Sanders carrying around a New York Giants football team issued all weekend long during the Heisman Trophy ceremony in New York City. Probably don't want to make anything of that. And I definitely don't want to make anything of Deion Sanders on the Pac-Man Jones show a couple of months ago, where he made it clear that the New York Giants would not pass on Sanders if they had the number 1 pick. Here was the convo. Pac-Man said, "The Raiders slide up to get the number 1 pick to draft your son." And then Deion said, "Do they have to slide?" Pac-Man was like, "Well, they're at number 2 right now." Deion was like, "Well, who's number 1? And Pac-Man was like, "I think the Giants are number 1. Then Primetime was like, "The Giants are not going to give up that pick. They are not going to give up that pick. I know that for a fact." Then Pac-Man Jones said, "If the Giants are the number 1 pick, who is the number 1 pick, Deion?" And Primetime said Shedeur is going to be the number 1 pick. Yeah, I think we can start to just write this in permanent ink and grab our Sharpies and put it on paper. I think the Giants have Shedeur Sanders as QB1. I don't know if this is breaking news anymore, or maybe I've said it, unknowingly so many times. The Giants are in love with him. The Giants are in love with him, and now you're just seeing all the ducks line in a row. And it sounds like the Giants have Shedeur Sanders as their QB1. And it seems like it's been this way for a while. I remember doing a show back in November, I believe, where Jordan Reed, NFL draft expert of ESPN, said this about quoting Shedeur, an anonymous assistant GM from an NFC team. Wonder what GM that could be. Said this on Sanders, the assistant GM. "He's been the best of the bunch to me, and I've been impressed by his growth this year. The on-field demeanor has been contagious so far, and the results have shown on the team this year." No way that anonymous NFC assistant GM is maybe the assistant GM of an NFC team that had a full report done on him for the 2024 NFL draft. And then his stock rose and they became more in love with him. No way Jordan Reed was talking about Brandon Brown right there. I think you catch my drift. The New York Football Giants are in love with Shedeur Sanders. I want to talk more about Shedeur, but first I want to get a pulse. Take the pulse of all the real ones out there. If you had your choice at one of these QBs, who would it be? Type S for Shedeur or C for Cam Ward. Coming up next, is he worth the pick? Is Shedeur Sanders worthy of the number 3 overall selection in the 2025 NFL Draft? I'll tell you my thoughts on that in a second, but first, I got to let you guys know about our proud sponsor, Game Time, the best ticketing app on the market. And with the NFC and AFC Conference Championship games tomorrow, there's no better place to get last-minute tickets. I don't think anyone wants to go watch the Eagles and the Commanders play, but hey, you can get them for cheap, those tickets with Game Time. Use that promo code ChatSports, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase where terms do apply. I only use Game Time because I know they take care of me as a customer. Prices drop as the events get closer. I'm a procrastinator. That matches up with me. They offer an all-in pricing feature. That way the price you see is the price you pay. And they have a Game Time Picks feature that makes it that much more easy to go see your favorite team perform. So download the app, create an account, use that promo code ChatSports, that's ChatSports, for $20 off your first purchase. It's more than just NFL games. You can go to NBA games, go catch a Knicks game, you can go to concerts, you can go to theater events, and so much more. So download the app, create an account, and promo code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase where terms do apply. All righty, is Shedeur Sanders worth the number 3 pick for the New York Giants. And to say it as, just straightforward as I can, I have a first-round grade on him as a quarterback prospect. The Giants need a quarterback, and he's most likely going to be on the board when they're on the clock. I do think he is worthy of the pick. Right now, I have him rated as QB2 in this class. I have Cam Ward as QB1. I've had it that way since week 0 of college football this year, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. I do think there is a pretty good gap. Like, I have Cam Ward rated as a top 10 player. I more so have Shedeur Sanders as like a top 20, top 32 player in this draft. I have really a tie at QB3 right now between Jaxson, Dart, and Jalen Milroe. I really classify them in the same class. They are not ready to play. They got to sit. They got to develop. But they have traits and upside that I'm willing to bet on. But they are developmental QBs. Then I got Will Howard and then Quinn Ewers at QB5 and 6. And I would probably have Kyle McCord at QB7. I will say of all the QBs in this class, Shedeur has the highest floor. I think he is the most pro-ready. And I think his skills and his traits are going to translate the easiest of all of these guys. If he just reaches his floor, he can be a solid player in this class. Things that I love about him as a football player, and more importantly, just a quarterback. Cool and calm under pressure. This is a guy that was sacked 99 times in the last 2 years, and he got up every single time. He is tough as hell. He's not afraid to take a hit and stand in there maybe a half second longer than he needed to throw a seed over the middle on 3rd and 8 and get it to his guy to move the chains. He'll take a hit and maybe sometimes take too many hits, but I think he is probably the coolest guy under pressure in the pocket when it comes to distributing the ball all over the football field. I also think he's the most accurate of all these quarterbacks at all 3 levels. And a lot of people, and I'll talk about it, a worry I have about him is, what is his elite trait? His elite trait is his ears and what's in between his ears. His brain, his football IQ, his ability to process. I think the best way to explain it is he's the best in this class at quarterbacking, getting through reads, getting the ball out on time, on target, taking what the defense gives you, and taking care of the football. I also love that he's been a 4-year starter in college, and I think he's an underrated athlete. This is someone that I think people have penciled in as someone that can't run and is a statue in the pocket. That's not true at all. You can get him involved in a QB run game when it's a 3rd and short or a 4th and short, or you're near or around the goal line. If they crash in and that defensive end crashes, he will pull that and walk into the end zone. He is more than capable of being a runner, not looking to run, but he's also able to make plays with his legs behind the line of scrimmage to throw the ball downfield. He's not a perfect prospect, and none of these quarterbacks are perfect prospects. I think he lacks game-changing traits. I think his best traits, like we talked about, are his football IQ, his processing, the way he plays the game in between his ears. But I do think he has an average NFL arm. I just talked about, I think he's an underrated athlete. He's for sure not a great athlete. He's not going to consistently beat you with his legs, and he's not someone that's got an A-plus arm and someone that I would say has an elite arm in this league. And you look at some of the top quarterbacks in this league, and they have elite traits. I worry that he does not. I think he holds the ball too long. I think he had to do that at times, and I also think that got overblown a little bit because he played behind a terrible offensive line. Because he lacks game-changing traits, I wonder what his ceiling is as an NFL quarterback. I talked about how his floor is higher than anybody else. I wonder where that ceiling comes into play, and something I always worry about, is he bigger than the team? I don't know. I do think that is something, though, that people have brought up before for a good reason. But overall, I think he's a mature guy. I think he's ready to handle the New York media. He's grown up under the spotlight. And yeah, I do think he is worth a top 3 pick. He grew every single year in college football as a player. Really, that jump from 2023 to 2024 was big to me. A lot of people are like, Marshall, if the Giants only had a 2nd or 3rd round grade on him in 2023, why is he now a top 5 pick? Because he got a lot better. And he grew in areas that I thought really didn't play all that well. The completion percentage grew almost through for a stack. More yards, touchdowns went up, interceptions went up, yes, but the turnover-worthy play percentage, it went down. And before the last game against BYU, his big-time throw percentage was up as well. The thing I love about him the most, though, is his ability to be cool in the pocket. When he is blitzed, he will tear you up on the back end. Kind of reminds me of Dak Prescott. As Giants fans, we know that. We tried to blitz him, and he just tears you up. Completes 68.5% of his passes when blitzed. He was blitzed 29.8% of the time last year. 15 touchdowns to just 3 picks. 11 big-time throws to just 3 turnover-worthy plays. When he is under pressure, he still makes plays, and you can see when he's under pressure. Completes nearly 55% of his passes, one of the highest numbers in this class. 12 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, and 8 big-time throws to 7 turnover-worthy plays. I think in evaluations, I have learned that being able to see how quarterbacks play under pressure is going to translate how they play under pressure in the pros. And if you can't do it in college, you're definitely not going to do it when the athletes are a whole lot bigger and a whole lot faster. A lot of people are like, Marsh, what's his pro comp? And I love pro comps too. And they're fun. It's a really fun talking point, but they're never really right. And it's just fun to play around with. Shout out to my guy, Big Dash. He was one of the first people I saw say this, and I think his ceiling is Joe Burrow. And I'm talking about a guy that is a surgeon from the pocket, a guy that thinks the game at a high level, elite accuracy, top of the league when it comes to ball placement, being able to maximize yards after the catch for his wide receiver and win on third down. Just an elite quarterback that may not have an elite arm or does not have elite playmaking traits or does not run the football. I think it's Forrest Teddy Bridgewater, which is a solid quarterback in the NFL. Somewhere in between here is where I think Sanders falls, and I think that's worthy of the number 3 pick in this draft. Maybe not last draft, but it doesn't matter. It's a year-to-year draft. What's today's price wasn't yesterday's price. I'd be very happy with him at number 3. The Giants need a quarterback. He's got skills that I think will translate to him being successful. And if you give him an offensive line, you give him weapons, and Brian Daboll gets to work with him, I believe you can get the most out of him, and he could be a quarterback that has the New York Giants competing in the NFC East. That has 3 pretty damn good QBs right now. Shout out to all y'all for tuning in. If you haven't yet, hit that thumbs up icon, subscribe to the channel, and hit me up on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on IG. Same handle, @MarshallGreen_. Hit me up, and let's go Big Blue.